Let the battle rage, let the cannons roar. We're marching into victory where the eagle always soars. Let the battle rage, let the cannons fly. The banner of our freedom is flying high.
Now, let me briefly introduce John Andrews. If I can keep this from sliding off the podium here. John Andrews was my great-great-grandfather. There are 66 soldiers of the Revolution on the left side and 90 soldiers that are buried in Warren County who fought in the War of 1812. Now, family history, and you know family history. Places John Andrews at the Battle of Bunker Hill playing the trumpet. I'm skeptical, but you know family history. Let me put this down. I got a please from the ladies here. No, I must say that I was a very, very young man at the time that all of the trouble started between Britain and the colonies. And that was so long ago, my memory can, play tricks on myself, but so it is. But as far as is remembered, I was drawn to Boston when all the trouble between the colonies and the British began to take place, and that drew me near Bunker Hill. And my memory seems to think that I played the trumpet at Bunker Hill, but memory fades, so who knows. After the war, though, I did move to northwestern Pennsylvania and settled at Irving. And then I took part in the War of 1812, and I was a major during that war and helped protect the brig Niagara when it was being built up near Lake Erie. And afterwards, my experiences, I came to live here in Irving, and all of the men that fought in the War of Revolution told great stories, and the families of that came to live with them. And so I came here shortly after Warren was surveyed, and the name of Warren was set in place. And so with all those stories of the families around, I learned a great deal about General Warren. Now, this man, well, I have to say my experiences during the Revolutionary War have no great significance, but those, even though General Warren was killed so early in the war, his memory lives on because he was so well loved. There are 14 states in this country that have counties named after him. There are many towns and cities and avenues that bear his name, and even ships. Now, his life started quite simply. He was the son of a farmer. He went to Roxbury Grammar School. He studied medicine. He taught at that Roxbury School for a short time. He got married and had 4 children. But his wife died early. And then he got involved in politics. He began to associate with Samuel Adams, John Hancock, and Paul Revere. He and Revere were in 5 of the 7 groups that were active in Boston when all the trouble was happening. He became a leader with Paul Revere for the Boston Tea Party. Now, when Britain took a very hard stand against Boston, Warren wrote the Suffolk Resolves, and Revere took them to Philadelphia on horseback, where the Continental Congress endorsed them. Now, the 7 active groups were not tight together in Boston, and they were very complex. However, Warren and Revere did help communicate and coordinate things. Now, Warren was a great speaker, and he spoke on many occasions, especially anniversaries of the Boston Massacre. You know, he worked to keep the people nonviolent, but when the Committee of Safety was organized, he and Revere worked so that there would be no surprises coming from the British. Now also, there were lots of spies to pass information back and forth. Dr. Benjamin Church, one of the leaders within the Boston Patriot groups, he passed everything he knew on to General Gage. Now, Warren had some spies that helped him out also, and one was said to be very close to General Gage. More about that later. Warren and Revere were able to set up a system of alarm fires around Boston and express riders that would send information to all the communities that were surrounding Boston. Now, events started to become at a very fast pace in the spring of 1775. On April 2nd, 2 British ships arrived at Marblehead with orders for General Gage. Well, it's not surprising, but the Patriots found out about those orders before General Gage did. They found out that Gage was ordered to capture the leaders of the trouble, Samuel Adams and John Hancock, and to go on and to destroy the ammunition and the weapons that were being stored at Concord. Well, knowing that, all of the leaders around Boston, of the provincial government, they all left town. The only 2 leaders left were Warren and Revere. And Gage did not get his orders until April 14th. But before that, he had ordered some of the landing boats to be put down, and they were stationed behind the rear of one of the ships, and Warren took that to mean that things were going to get started. So he sent the riders out that they had, and everybody was warned about the British starting to attack the regulars. Well, it was a false alarm. wasn't going to happen quite yet. But it was a good thing because the Samuel Adams and Hancock found out they needed to be ready quite quickly, and the provincial government began to move away from Concord also. Now, Gage found out about these riders, and he sent out 20 soldiers to close off the choke points out of Boston. And they stayed, which didn't usually happen. The soldiers usually went out and went back. So everybody knew something was up. Now, on April 18th, news went out from Boston that the British soldiers were making quick trips to the world's oldest profession. Now that was almost sure sign that something was going to be happening, but Revere and Warren needed to make sure. They did not want another false alarm. So Warren made use of his spy, and he found out that they were definitely going to be moving very, very quickly to capture Hancock and Adams and destroy Concord. So at around 9 or 10 o'clock on that evening, Warren talked to Paul Revere and told him that William Dawes and another rider had been sent out to travel 2 different routes to tell the militias to make ready. After Revere got the famous message from the Old North Church, he set out by boat. Now, Revere and the many riders were able to get the word spread. Now, the word was, the regulars are coming. The regulars are out. Not the British were coming, because they were all considered British at that time. So just remember, the regulars are coming. And the word spread. Now, Warren left Boston on the morning of the 19th. He got to Lexington in the afternoon. He helped make plans for what should be happening and what the militias that were continually arriving on the scene were to do. Warren joined the battles at Watertown with General Heath. Now, Warren stayed close to Heath for the rest of that day and through the fighting. There was one occasion where a British ball took a pin out of Warren's wig. So he came close to death that day. Now, on returning home, his mother told him that he should take more care, but he let his mother know that if death would come his way, that was what he had to do. Now, during that day and all of that fighting, Warren took note. He had seen prisoners who were killed and who were unarmed. He had been by homes that were destroyed by fire with everyone, the whole family, still left inside. He took note of all of that, and after that day, he wrote a quick letter that got off to his friend, the mayor of London, who spread the news of what the British had done all through London. And that was before the British official word of what had happened got back to London and Britain. And because of that reporting also, John Adams, who would become our second president and help write the Declaration of Independence, took a ride around the sites where all the action had taken place at Lexington and Concord, and he became cemented in his resolve to gain freedom from Britain. Now, after the battles around Lexington and Concord, around Boston, the militias moved in, and they quickly put up stockades to seal off Boston and for their own defense. Warren was ready for the next fight. He had his children taken to his fiancée, who was to take care of them. Now, on June 17, 240 years ago, Warren was given the command of a brigadier general. Now, he did not feel that he knew enough about fighting in battles to take that command. So he stayed with the militia people. And during the first and the second attacks by the British, Warren was out front. And when ammunition ran low, Warren stayed with those people out front to help stop the British and give the militias time to with that Lieutenant Lord Ralston saw and spotted Warren. The British knew him very well, and they didn't like him. And it's thought that this lieutenant was the one who shot Warren through the head and killed him immediately.